The smallest possible Serbia within reason. Or after the fall of Yugoslavia, if Serbia got really screwed. So first of all, in this alternative universe, it seems like some surrounding nations were given more land, and then in other cases, new independent countries popped up. Like whatever this is, Sanzak, and Slavonia, and Siromania. I'm confused why Hungary got this. Why wasn't that given to Romania? They were just kind of like right there. Historically, that doesn't make much sense though. And then Bulgaria got all this up this way. We get thick Bulgaria in this universe. Slightly different flag for reasons, and their population would be only about 3.4 million. Largest and capital city would be Beograd. These borders do seem within reason though, since like most are formed around rivers. It's almost like perfectly somewhere within here. Now maybe in a world with a small Serbia, things would balance out with a very large Nordic union. Normally Nordic unions are really boring, but this one is actually kind of interesting. Like the amount of concepts that just include Iceland, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, and Finland, it's just, okay. This one is a special case though, because we do have a lot of islands in like the North Sea and the Baltic Sea. They've obviously included Greenland since Denmark has that. I've seen a couple of these unions with the idea of having some Baltic countries in there. This one is leaving out Lithuania though. It's just Estonia and weird Latvia, which is actually live land. I hope people are living in that land. But the part I like the most is some of the stuff that's taken from Russia to make this fit a bit more. So in this world, this stuff would all be connected instead of having like Finland and then randomly the Baltics. So we have a very big, thick Finland. Of course, this Nordic Union is divided into these different states. I actually don't know what the countries would look like. Or maybe the Nordic Union is its own country. I wasn't sure if it was like a EU union where it formed as an entity, but you know, the countries were independent. This is one of the largest peninsulas in the world. That's also going to the Nordic Union. And then Ingerland. It's the first time I've ever realized that place's name. I'm pretty sure only like 12 people live in some of these territories. So would it be a really big deal if Russia lost this? Maybe they'll let them have it. Actually, the population of this entire union as a whole is probably like 103. But it would look cool on a map of the Jewish People's Republic. Or if Israel was in Europe, is that the scenario we're doing here? Oh wow, this scenario gets even crazier than that. The year is actually 1984, and this was actually created by the Soviet Union when Israel allied with the West. So the communists decided they would form their own Israel out of former German territory. Oh my god. So this is a part of the Eastern Bloc. They are communists, Marxist-Leninists to be specific. With over 6 million population and their official language being Yiddish. A lot of other ethnic groups inside of the territory as well. And they're doing pretty good GDP-wise for the time. It seems like a really large chunk of land to give them. But I guess they would want to show up the US by giving them like even more stuff. Now imagine when the Cold War ends, like what do you do? Does everything stay the same? We had a slightly smaller Serbia. Now get ready for a slightly smaller USA, the borders of North America after the Treaty of Paris in 1783. So originally in 1776, we had very thick Virginia, and in our alternative universe, we ain't gonna have that. It looks like everything northwest of the Ohio was given back to the British, or maybe not back, but they have it now. Now the question is, do they stay like this forever? I doubt it, because we still have Spain being like the Western European Ottoman Empire. I mean, their slow demise was gonna happen regardless, probably. Without some of these iconic states like Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, would the US be nearly as powerful? Because they definitely weren't going to get this back. If anything, do they lose the War of 1812 a couple decades later? I mean, that was a tie before, but if they don't have these states, does a lot of things change during that? Maybe the British retake the USA. But for fun, let's just say that doesn't happen. Maybe there's still like a Louisiana Purchase. That'd make a very strong Canada for the remaining century. All of Canada's population is going to be coming right from here, I think. Maybe they declare war on us, like, I don't know, maybe like a couple of decades after they get their independence. What's interesting is this was an actual proposed map that the USA rejected in 1782, a year before the Treaty of Paris. So this is just a universe where they accepted those terms, really. I guess this could have been closer to reality than we thought. Some statistics of the world, but in this world, Latin America is much stronger. So in this first map, we have government types, and I'm now just realizing that Latin America being stronger kind of creates a domino effect on the rest of the world. The USA isn't really here. Also, there's now the South, the Confederacies probably right there. Also, we have thick China as well. And I'm also assuming since we have the old Imperial German borders, this is probably somewhere before 1914. Or maybe not. Maybe there was no World War I. In terms of economic systems, we have a whole lot of market socialism and whatever that is, Cardenism. What? So like left-wing stuff, I guess. A lot of that is also going in Africa and Europe. Oh, look at the Japanese borders. They've got Korea and all of Manchuria. There's basically no monarchies left in this world. There's a couple of pockets left in Africa Africa and the subcontinent of India, well, those are the sub-national monarchies. The red ones are still there. The United Kingdom has been broken up into England, which is still a monarchy, Germany, obviously. Then everyone else is a republic. We have Human Development Index. The Western Hemisphere as a whole is doing really well, except for like the USA and the South. I mean, they're not struggling, but it's not good. The no data of this world happens to be somewhere in India. We have no idea what the hell is going on in this part of India, as well as Ethiopia. Who got this? Is this Italy or something? Most of the world does seem pretty well developed. We have nominal GDP, Brazil, and whatever this country is. So this is Grand Colombia, and then we have thick Mexico. All three of these countries really rich, along with Germany, Russia, China, and Japan. They are among the richest. India is really struggling in this world, I guess. Then there's GDP per capita. Argentina is doing really good in that category, and that's without the influx of Germans, I'm guessing. Germany's probably not going to need to use that spot for a possible vacation one day. Love that this map didn't just show us like a really powerful Latin America, like they showed us other things involved in it. Those are always the best alt histories. The Crown of Aragon, the Roman Empire successor. So this is somewhere near the start date of EU4. It's probably like maybe the 1500s or something. Aragon had southern Italy, and it looks like they integrated that to their country. Then they ate up southern France, got all these Italian states, and then created their own little Venetian empire, I guess, doing a lot of mercantilism. Taking chunks out of the Ottomans is probably the part that I'm like, I don't know about this. But maybe they did it early enough. I guess a date isn't included, so maybe the Ottomans weren't here just yet. I feel like there'd be a lot of surrounding countries that have a lot of incentive to like team up and push these guys out though. France, Castile, Africa, the Ottomans. I don't know how long this thing would last, but yeah, you can have your own little mini Roman Empire for like a couple decades. You're gonna have to get a lot bigger than this though if you want to keep it. They had alliances with Egypt and Austria though, according to the lore. So yeah, I guess that helps. I love this so much. Now here's an election that seems like it should be in an alternative universe, but actually isn't. The 2006 Wyoming gubernatorial election. We have a Republican without even a picture versus a Democrat, and the Democrat is going to win by exactly 70%. On the dot too. It is exact. Mind you, Wyoming is a very Republican state, and 2 years earlier, it had just gone to George W. Bush. To win an election like this with such a landslide, in normally a very red state, I don't know how this was even possible. Wyoming hasn't voted for a Democratic president since 1964. Ever since then, they've been voting red, and it's mostly not even close. Like, it's kind of a landslide. Although they do kind of switch back and forth in their governor history. In 2002, they also had a Democrat, and then in the 70s and 80s they were voting. These must be some very different Democrats then. Ooh, I like this. A timeline where the Philippines replaces Imperial Japan. So they are called the Empire of Pan-Malaya, and their Asian imperialization consists of, well, obviously Malaya, a lot of Indochina. They refer to this as the Indo-Chinese Empire. They of course have Taiwan, that's a staple, as well as these islands out here. Actually, all of the Pacific Islands the Japanese normally controlled they have. Now, it's definitely going to be a lot easier for them to get to the Dutch East Indies whenever they run out of oil. Wasn't that the thing that Japan needed? They needed oil, so that's why they went after this. So this is going to consist as like their Korean peninsula, I guess. Look how divided this Asia is, though. I mean, this is a complete collapse from China, which would mean it'd be very easy for them to eat this stuff up. Although if they invade, it might unite like it did. Japan is just this shogunate. They've got no interest. I'm assuming they're pretty much still practicing like being isolated. I guess the lore behind this is the British controlled the Philippines since the 7 Years' War. So they had it for like 100 years, industrialized it, taught them about all these things, and then they got their independence and went a little nuts. Fun times. A map of New York City if New Jersey got their way. Or in other words, New York has lost Staten Island, as well as Liberty Island and Ellis Island. That goes to New Jersey as well. I don't know what's going on with like Rikers Island. Why is that highlighted exactly? This is currently what New York looks like, and as you can see, they firmly have in their control Staten Island and then these two islands. They're losing the islands. That's the thing. Gonna just assume there's gonna be a lot of New Yorkers that really don't like this. Hot take time. Coming from the Californian, I'm sure everyone wants to know my opinion. But as a super outsider that's really only been to New York for like 2 or 3 days, from purely a map perspective, this makes a lot more sense. Like, why did New York get it? I get New York is very powerful. They probably bullied around New Jersey like, nah, we want this, we want that. I mean, I guess you can have Ellis Island and Liberty Island, I guess. But Staten Island, this really looks like it should be a part of New Jersey. If you just showed me this other map, I literally would have been like, yeah, that looks right to me. I would have had no idea. The East Coast is like such a different world. I'm sure people outside of the US think that I know just all this stuff. It's like 3,000 miles away. I have no idea what's going on over there. If India now had an imperial empire like Japan, I guess. So it looks like they had to have gotten their independence way before they did in our timeline, but I don't know how that would have happened since like the British kind of helped unite this subcontinent a lot. Maybe they united on their own or something? I just realized the imperial empire, very redundantly redundant. Maybe the British were able to unite this subcontinent very fast, and then they just broke away somehow like 50 to 100 years earlier. Then they went straight demon mode and started taking over a lot of their neighbors. They got all of Tibet. I feel like out of everything from this map, this seems the most unrealistic. Everything on that side of the Himalayas, like, why would they want that? I'm sure they want it, but why would they get that? But they got Afghanistan, parts of Persia. I can see this whole colonial thing they got going on in the Indian Ocean. Taking the Arabian Peninsula, the Horn of Africa, Madagascar. That makes sense to me. They already have influence on these areas. Myanmar would already be a part of them, so all they have to do is take a little bit more. Yeah, everything looks pretty good, except for this Tibet stuff. I don't know. Going over the largest mountain range in the world, the Himalayas, just for Tibet? Maybe they could have that. I just don't know if they're going to keep it. I don't even know why I'm talking about this so much. Definitely can say I've never seen this before, the West Indian Federation, or if the West Indies decided to do what we saw in that last one, just go crazy like India. So in the red, we have the original part of the Federation, which was established in 1879. I love how, like, you could really show this to normies, and they would have no idea that this didn't actually happen. That's my favorite part about these maps. Like, this looks so real. This really looks like this is what happened. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Everything in the light red was acquisitions, probably through war. Maybe they bought some of it. I don't know. They might have been able to buy some of it. This area was pretty rich. The country didn't get its independence clearly till 1987. Sorry, I meant 1879. I don't know where I got that other date from. They got the Bahamas in 1892, and then Bermuda randomly in 1996. You need that. So they did all their expansion within like the first few decades. Virgin Islands in 1888. Took them a little longer to get some of these other ones though. Maybe the European colony just kind of kept a stranglehold over them. 1957, they got the southern region, 0.2 million population. That was so worth it. Then the western region, so randomly Belize, and then they stole away the Mosquito Coast. I feel like I could see this working, but when you steal away the coastlines, it's like, I don't know how many people would allow this. Just the islands forming a federation, yeah. That's believable. Once you steal away like actual large land masses, I think some of these other places would get upset. I don't know what I'm talking about. I think maybe people would just be upset in general. The capital is the Port of Spain. Their population would be 10 million. That's not bad. Just a bunch of random islands. Most of the population would be black or mixed or also Indian. Not too many Latinos and not too many white folks. They would mostly speak English, though. I don't know how they'd be speaking English. At least not by this much. 59%? That'd be the craziest thing about all this, is like all the crazy languages. There'd be French and Spanish and English. I don't know why there's some Chinese included. People speaking Maroon 5. I wish instead of expanding into all these territories, they actually took that time to work on their flag a little bit. Maybe instead of stealing land away, you should take some time to just focus on your artwork. These guys better have the strongest navy in the world. And big thank you to my patrons. RyethePie. This is Gabe. Why am I doing this? iLoveMarx. Drew has a small PP, but I give him money anyways. Dalton D. Drew's Argentinian grandpa. Bring back Polandball. AryanAfterHours. Barnsky W. Ivan Lima. Jesse C. LuxembourgLover. Majestic Unicorn. Max Cooper. McBlorf. Mine Brothers 999X2. And Stormtrooper 501. Thank you.